no Jedi.
Your powers are weak, old man.
Always remember, your focus determines your reality.
Hello there.
General Kenobi! You don't know the power of the dark side.
Hello and welcome back to the Disciples of the Force podcast. I'm your host, Austin Hyatt, and this is my wonderful co-host, Spencer Silva. We are happy to be back in the studio to record another episode for you. We hope you've been well. Without further ado, Spenny, you want to start us off with some Star Wars news? I guess we don't really have any, but
not much Star Wars news. The biggest thing is just Ahsoka has finally got her little release date.
Mm-hmm.
It'll be the 23rd of August. We're excited. Along with that, I have my sweet and lovely wife is moving up north, closer to Austin, where he's at. So we'll be moving, and that's good for the pod because in person. So I know sometimes you hear some delay, and you probably think, "Man, what's going on?" It's because we do it remote, but today, soon, we'll be doing it in person. We'll have our own little studio. Put up all of our little our helmets, our freaking starships, dude. It's gonna be off the hook, off the chain.
It'll be great. It'll be great.
That'll be good.
So we're excited for that.
Yeah. Other than that, the other Star Wars news, not news, just about me, because I'm selfish and I like talking about myself. Today I just finished the second Thrawn book, so we jump into the third here pretty soon, and then I'm gonna jump into all of the prequel novels and the original novels. And get some
nice.
On that. So,
did you like the second book more than the first one?
I started off liking it more. I think in the end, I like the ending more of the first one, but it's really cool because it has like every other chapter is Anakin with Thrawn, and then it cuts to Darth Vader and Thrawn.
Right.
And I've seen a couple of things where they were like, they're like, I think Thrawn knew that Anakin and Darth Vader are the same. Nah, dude, that's 100%. He 100% knows. Oh, the whole time, you're like, dude, he keeps toying with him at the very end because Darth Vader says like 4 or 5 times. He's like, Anakin Skywalker is dead. Anakin Skywalker is dead.
Right.
At the very end of the book. And every time that Darth Vader says that, Thrawn responds with, "So I've heard," or "So I've been told," which is like,
Right.
And then at the very end, he says, "I know." Which is cool because it's like he accepts that Darth Vader and Anakin are like 2 separate people, not the same person, even though he knows that it is. So it's really cool. Really liked it. Ending. It's just that the storyline just wasn't too strong towards the end, and that's why I didn't really like it that much. But I thought that was a cool element, jumping from Anakin to Darth. Real dope.
Yeah. Well, not to dwell on it, but it is a trilogy, right? So does it get weak at the end because it leads into the third book?
That's exactly right. Yeah, because it's like right where it's at. Is Darth Vader's questioning Thrawn's allegiance to the Empire, and so like he's really like, I don't know if I buy this. I think you're more attached to your people than you are the Empire. And so it's like in the last chapter, you just hear Darth Vader go, I can't wait to have my like one-on-one with Thrawn, and I'm gonna call him out. I'm gonna say there's something up with you, and then it kind of ends. So that means it's going to run straight into the third, which was really weird because going from the first to the second, it's like a huge gap in years. Tons of characters don't return. Thrawn is the only one that returns from that book. And so it's really good. I don't know. You should definitely read it. I liked it a lot, the first and the second.
I'm just trying to get through this one book, and then once I'm good, I'm going to read another book, and then I'll jump into Thrawn.
I just do audiobooks, man. I've been reading a book right now, and it has taken me probably 6 months, and I'm like not even a quarter of the way through.
Dude, I'm the same way. You know, I read something though. This is good for the pod too. I read nobody is a slow or bad reader, because I always I could never finish these fiction books. I would always put them down and be like, I can't finish that. I read that nobody hates reading. They just haven't found a good author yet, because it's like the author's job to keep you entertained and keep you turning pages. So I'm reading a book right now, but it's in Spanish, and I think that's why it's hard for me. It's because like I'm reading it half the speed I would in English, so that's what I got to get through.
You're still reading that book?
Yeah, still. Well, because I read it like every time I'm just anyway. It's taking me forever.
Cooly wooly. Well, that's it for Star Wars news. Not really much to report on. We've received a lot of people really like the Patterson cut that we talked about on our TikTok. It's doing pretty good.
Yeah,
people are definitely interested. Again, give that a watch. Just save some room for the download, but really fantastic cut. Other than that, you have anything else, Oz?
Nope, that's it for me. Thanks for listening, guys. Thank you for.
All right, well, let's spin the wheel. I actually didn't prepare the wheel, so I gotta hurry and add some topics onto it.
Sure, man.
Super freaking lit. All right.
While he's doing that, now that we actually have a little bit of a following, feel free to email us, comment, talk to us about what you want to hear about, because we talk about these topics just from what we can drum up. So we'd love to cover what our fans want to hear about, or our friends and family.
And maybe don't. I don't know.
Yeah.
No, I'm totally teasing. All right. I got it on here. What's going on here? Why is this not? I need that one. There we go. All right. Let me share this good old screen and we'll jump into it. And I want for the flipping. There it is. Okay. Now we're going to spin
that wheel.
We're so good.
Oh, we're good at that.
It's so good.
Can't wait until we're in person, dude. We're never going to lag like that again.
we might still.
Yeah.
Alrighty. Oh, good. I'm glad we can circle back to this.
Okay.
Why the sequels are not that good of Star Wars movies are not Star Wars movies, if I would want to phrase it. The reason why I said circle back to it is, oh my hell. Austin and I, when we first did the pod, we tried to do it in person, and we had so many technical difficulties. If you listen to, like, I think, our second or our third episode, it's very short. It's like 20 minutes, and it's because halfway through we couldn't salvage the rest of it. And we really got into a lot of these things about the sequels. And then I think we tried one more time, and it still didn't hit. And we were so done of talking about it. We recorded it twice without anything being usable that we said, we're done. We're not going to talk about it for a while. It's been months, so I think we can come back to it now that our brains have kind of left it.
Yeah, that was booty.
All right, but go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, we've been pretty vocal about how we don't love the sequel trilogy, and I don't want to rag on it too much, but it's really difficult because you understand. So first off, the sequel trilogy, 3 movies, 2 different directors. They didn't really have a plan from the beginning where they wanted this trilogy to end up. George Lucas, when he sold the rights to Disney in 2012, gave them what he had written, gave them a pretty good roadmap of what he wanted to happen. And I think it involved, I don't want to misspeak. We can look at that later. But he had a good roadmap for what was going to happen. Disney kind of threw it all out and instead elected to do like a half-hearted reboot and a half-hearted remake of A New Hope. And from what I understand, that was really due to J.J. Abrams. Like, he had a ton of creative control over that project. And of course, he grew up loving Star Wars, and so he wanted to make a Star Wars movie that made him feel, or made fans feel the way that he felt watching the first Star Wars movie, which is why The Force Awakens is so copy and paste from A New Hope. So from the very beginning, they didn't have a good roadmap. Well, they did, threw it out, and then they didn't have a plan for where they wanted the sequel trilogy to go. So you had that movie, and the next movie was The Last Jedi, directed by Rian Johnson, who I don't like very much. He also directs Knives Out and Glass Onion, some other things. But he had really this all comes down to different ideologies of how they wanted the sequel trilogy to play out. One wanted to keep and capitalize on the nostalgia of the original movies, and the other, Rian Johnson, wanted to kill that original feeling and create something new, which honestly, I agree more with that. Honoring the past, but building on it and creating like a different future. I like that. I just don't think it was executed well, due in part to them not having a plan to combine those movies. So,
Yeah, absolutely. I think. That's the biggest thing is you're bringing in two different visions or two different plans of how you want to execute these sequels, and it's very well noticed. You're like, what is going on? Why was this brought up and then dropped the next movie? But one of the biggest things that my beef with the sequels, first off, really beautiful movies. Like they're very. If you like action, they're great. Like if you don't know much about Star Wars, it's a great movie. I think The Force Awakens is one of the most loved movies because if you look at anyone's top 10, top Star Wars movies, it's up there pretty good. And that's understandable. Like you said, it's a reboot of A New Hope, and it's visually really cool. My problem with it is I don't like some of the choices for the dialogue. I'm like, ugh, that is just not good. A lot of the dialogue between Finn and Rey, I just kind of go, it's just not amazing. I know you could say, well, look at A New Hope. There's some terrible dialogue.
Yeah, look at any Star Wars movie where George Lucas had all the creative control.
Exactly. There's some, I hate sand. It's coarse. It's rough. It's everywhere. It's like, yeah, you're right. Star Wars isn't known for its dialogue, okay? And maybe my point is flawed, but I don't like it. For some reason, that movie, I hate it the most. But my other problem is, and when you and I have talked about this and we've really dove into it, but you make this very curious, like, who is this Snoke character? What is he doing? Like, oh, he's so interesting, we don't get to see him. He's leading the whole thing. And then, boom, they kill him so quickly when he finally, gets his full, you get to see him up close and everything. And it's like, what? It's not really like, maybe you could argue, oh, that's a shock factor. I'm like, it's not though. It's a really just poorly written way to A, kill a character, and B, to just spend all this time making us interested in something and then just like, oh, that's it. That's all we get from him. So that, I think the villains are very cool looking, but I think they're executed poorly.
Yeah.
So that's my one beef with them. I have more, but let's back to you.
Yeah, no, it is really, it's just crazy how much of a missed opportunity it was. And really, from a financial standpoint, those movies did great. I think all of them made more than $1 billion for Disney, which is great because everybody will shell out for a Star Wars movie. Or at that time, that's when did Force Awakens come out? 2015?
Yeah, that time period, yeah.
That's when Disney was like at its peak. Marvel Studios, owned by Disney, was hot. And it was the first Star Wars movie back, so people were going to come out no matter what, And then, that's the thing. Force Awakens was just good enough to have us like craving what's next, because there was that big cliffhanger where Rey finds Luke on Ahch-To.
Right. That's right.
And we're like, oh my gosh, it ends here. What are we going to do? Like, and we just seen Han Solo die, killed by Ben Solo, or Kylo Ren, and it's really emotional. Really, it had a pretty good ending, I think.
Yeah,
that's what I like in a movie. Emotional. They took risks in killing Han Solo, and so you're left with this awesome feeling when you leave the theater, only to go to the next movie and it's a clean slate. Like even Mark Hamill. And Mark Hamill's an amazing actor who really cares about Luke as a character and always has. He told Rian Johnson straight up, this isn't Luke Skywalker, the guy you're trying to make me play isn't Luke Skywalker. And he did it, which props to him for just doubling down and having to do that. But it really is sad what was all lost just because of a lack of communication. If they would have killed Luke off in that movie, I would have been fine with that. If they had given some better context as to why he had left the order and all that stuff. It's just, I don't know. I didn't like it. I don't like those movies very much.
Well, that's the thing is that they do ruin some really great characters. I think, like you said, they did a great job with killing Han Solo. Right, his son killing him was like, dang, well, that's
Yeah.
dark. Shows how dark Kylo Ren is. You're like, dude, he's evil, you know. And then a lot of this is lost in the next movie, like you're saying. I mean, Luke, what isn't it? I think pretty early, doesn't he throw the lightsaber? He just throws it. You're like, that's
Yeah.
not Luke. And people are like, oh well, if you would have gone through what he did, one of his Padawans, you know. But we don't know any of that information. He just throws it. And you're like, what? Like, okay, A, dumb. B, I get, you know, he holds this weight of seeing, you know, a Padawan he trained turn to the dark side and kill all these people, right? That's gonna suck. But I mean, I think it totally takes Luke down this place that you're like, he would have never done that. That's not Luke Skywalker.
Yeah.
And
Exactly.
yeah.
No, sorry. Go on. If you have something.
Well, I was
else.
just gonna bring up the other point of like how, and then his, you know, point of wanting to kill Kylo Ren, and it's like he's already walked down this path in a similar sense, in the fact that his father, he could have killed his father, but he saw good in him, and I do see that people could make the argument, well, this weighs heavier on him because he feels like it is his fault. He really didn't do anything for his father to go down to the dark side, which is true. But I think he's already crossed that bridge once. You think he could pull from that and not go so crazy about it because it worked. I mean, to a point it worked because then, of course, the First Order rises. But
Yeah, and that's a great point. Like people try to say that this version of Luke is more human, which I think is true. You know, where maybe you were strong in believing something in your youth and you had your morals straight, and then as you age, you change, and you know, different concerns make you behave differently. That being said, Luke was never supposed to be a human character. You know, he's supposed to be perfect hope in a character. And that's why I love Luke, is because even in Return of the Jedi, when they're trying to tease for him to turn to the dark side, and you know he loses his cool several times in that movie, he chokes the Gamorrean guards and all that thing, those things, you still know, like, this little farm boy from Tatooine is, you know, hope in the galaxy. And like Star Wars, people always call Star Wars a science fiction. They misgenre it. It's not a science fiction. It's a space fantasy. It's a fantasy. And one of those fantastic elements of it is these human characters who have beyond or superhuman morals and values. And Luke is that perfect character type. And so he's the kind of guy that in Return of the Jedi, he went in. It's so inconsistent. And again, you could go back to like a character arc where he's changed, but to have him deal with the Kylo Ren situation where he feels that Ben Solo is being manipulated by the dark side and about to turn, instead of approaching him and talking to him or dealing with it with love, he goes and tries to, you know, kill him. And of course, in the movie, it explains it was like a momentary lapse of judgment. But this is the same Luke Skywalker who went to the the chambers of the two most powerful Sith Lords in the galaxy because he knew that he could change his father's path. You know, he willingly gave himself up, went there, and knew that he could turn him. And of course, in that scene, he also has a lapse of judgment where he defeats Darth Vader and he's chopping away at him. And you really think there for a second, like, whoa, he could turn right here.
yeah.
And then he throws the lightsaber away and says, no, I'm a Jedi, like my father before me, whatever. He's that type of character. He's not the type of character to give in and, you know, kill his nephew because he's scared. That's just not Luke Skywalker.
And did Ben, like Kylo Ren, did he even do anything at that point to like, he was just kind of edging towards the dark side, right? That's it. He just kind of saw.
As far as I know. Yeah. I mean, I haven't read the comics or anything around it, but I know he was under the influence of Snoke at that time, or Palpatine through Snoke. Of course, that's not clear, but
oh yeah, that, and then we can get into that too. Yeah. That whole thing. And it's like, I just like I can't see Luke doing that. Like, I mean, I get you grow and you get older, but like you just said, you nailed it on the head. He knows that he could change. He sees the good in his father, right? So it's like you're telling me he didn't even think maybe I should talk this through with him first before he tries to kill him. You know what I
Right.
mean? And it's just like that's not Luke Skywalker. That's not what he does. I mean, we can say that, but it's canon at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So we can't change it because that's what's written and it's him. But it's like it just ruins that. You kind of ruin his character. I mean, that's a terrible to see in the character you love. And then another thing I was thinking of, we kind of talked about this when we had first recorded, but also going along with that with Rey. I mean, she's given everything so quickly. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like she's able to do the Jedi mind trick so quick, no training, just boom, she can do it. Like I get there's power in like your midi-chlorian count, all that stuff, but it's like there still has to be a way you have to learn to channel that and access it. And it's like she has 3 failed attempts or 2 failed attempts, and boom, she did it. It's like there's no way. There's no way. That's not how the Force works. Just because you have it doesn't mean you're an amazing person with it. Yeah, but go ahead. Yeah.
Well, no, yeah, and that's a great point. I understand that. People always say that Rey is a Mary Sue character, and I agree. But I also agree that there are other Mary Sue characters in Star Wars. But the difference is, like you said, timing. Like Luke, we don't see him move an object with the Force until Empire Strikes Back. You think about that. The only time we ever see him interact with the Force is when they're on the Millennium Falcon and he's got the blinders on and he's, detecting blaster bolts and blocking them. But then also at the very end of the movie where Obi-Wan guides him and he says, Luke, use the Force, and he takes the guidance system away and he blows up the Death Star, which in itself is an amazing feat. But he doesn't move an object with the Force until the second movie, and it's his lightsaber when he's in that cave, and it takes a lot of effort for him to move that. And then it's just a really rough juxtaposition when you go to Force Awakens, and Rey is so powerful.
Yeah.
And like, could you imagine in A New Hope, Obi-Wan gets killed by Vader, and then Luke goes and picks up Obi-Wan's lightsaber and just beats the crap out of Vader.
Yeah.
And then Leia's also there, and they're both just beating up on Vader. I don't know. It's just not realistic. When you compare it to the other movies, it doesn't fit within. And that's the thing. Like we said, these are good standalone movies. Kind of, I guess. But even in a fantastical world where nothing is reality, you still have to work within the established reality of the universe. So,
yes.
They established this in 1977 with A New Hope, how this universe works. And when you go outside of that, it's very noticeable and it's hard to watch. So,
yeah. Well, and it's like, I think of that too. I think of the fact that people are like, oh, that's just not realistic. Oh, is it realistic that they can use the Force? It's like, that's not what I'm saying. We're saying within the constraints they have, they are breaking them. That's what we mean. We're not saying like, none of this is realistic. You can't make that argument because we're just saying what has already been defined. We're in that universe. These are the rules. And now you're breaking them. And it's like, that's the issue we're running into, like you're saying. And it's not like, oh, is it because Rey's a woman or all these things that people like to throw. It's like, no, it's just genuinely, it's a poorly written character that makes me wonder what was going on. Why did we go down this path? Why does she can just do that, even though Luke took years of training? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I don't know, man. It's just like, and that's the other thing. Sorry, I totally forgot. Ezra in Rebels, he's a strong Jedi. Dude, he can't do anything. You see, throughout the whole time, you see him grow and become the Jedi he is at the very end, where he can finally do the Jedi mind trick. He couldn't do it. He tried so hard. He wanted it, too. He was like, oh, come on. He's training. He's working with Kanan to try to do it, and he just can't. But he's trying so hard. He's powerful. We know he's powerful. Yet, all of a sudden, Rey, no training, boom, pops it out and does it.
Yeah.
Well, come on.
Yeah, it's just I I don't know. I like I said, I don't want to just bash on the sequel trilogy because that's so easy to do. But it is hard, especially when you think of we talked about this before too. The actors, like in most cases, these are people that love Star Wars, and their characters were just butchered. We talk a lot about John Boyega, who got done the dirtiest out of anybody in this trilogy. So this guy, John Boyega, loved Star Wars growing up. In fact, it still like gets me emotional when you watch that video of him with his dad when they first see the trailer. And that's another problem. Disney marketed so hard that this ex-stormtrooper Finn was going to be a Jedi, They alluded to it through all the marketing. There were posters of him holding a lightsaber. And at the end, the very end of the first trailer that was released, I remember this, the last shot of that trailer is Finn, John Boyega, holding the Skywalker saber. Everybody freaked out. And that video of him with his dad, where they're like getting emotional because, he's in Star Wars, just so awesome. And there was so much potential to really expound on that. This ex-stormtrooper who is force sensitive, they could have built a new Jedi Order, whatever. And then, and this I specifically blame on Rian Johnson. I don't know who made all these decisions, but in the Last Jedi, that's where Boyega's character really just gets thrown out. Like Finn just goes with Rose to that casino planet, and he does not do anything. And then J.J. Abrams in The Rise of Skywalker, is that what it's called? Gosh, I can't think of the names. Yeah. J.J. Abrams in The Rise of Skywalker doesn't do anything to rectify. And of course, he was given a hard task to try to undo everything that Rian Johnson had done. And I don't think J.J. Abrams is that great of a director anyway. So it's kind of hard all around. But he doesn't do anything to undo what Rian Johnson had done with Finn's character. And it's almost insulting, like at the very end where there's that battle on Exegol and Finn's like, raise on that shit. Or no, I think they're looking for the repeating dish or something. And he's like, it's on that ship. And somebody's like, how do you know? I just feel it. And it's like, again, alluding to that he's force sensitive.
Yeah.
But it's like, oh my gosh. And the different love interests they gave him, like he was in love with Rey, and then they had a weird thing with Rose, and then they just give him that other ex-stormtrooper, like just gets dumped on him. No connection there at all. And throughout The Rise of Skywalker, that's another cringe thing. John Boyega, Finn, is just yelling Rey's name throughout the whole movie, needing to tell her something, and it's never told.
Yes. Yeah.
Isn't that crazy?
It's just never, we don't know. We have no idea.
Yeah. Like the budget on this movie, and they didn't have one writer being like, so what is Finn yelling at Rey for?
Yeah. Like, you're like, not only are you blue balling us, but it's like, why? Like, if your whole point is to never say it, that's just not good. That's just not good writing. It's like, who is that not going to piss off when they watch the movie? Like, really? I don't get to know. And it's like one of those things that kind of goes on, and then at the end, kind of dawns on you, like, they never said it. Like, dude, it just makes you mad. It has a bitter taste in your mouth, and it kind of just makes you hate it a little bit more when you dawns on you. Yeah.
And, people are saying that in the new movie that they just announced that Daisy Ridley's coming back for, that some people are speculating that John Boyega will also come back and be a Jedi. But I would love that for Finn's story, but I would hate for John Boyega to come back and just get wrecked again by bad writing or, them just keeping him out again. So it'll be interesting to see.
It's something that should have happened from the beginning, because you put at the end that we're gonna have 1,000 questions of, well, then why didn't he do, like, why wasn't he felt it here? Like, it will raise 1,000 questions. I think something you should have done from the beginning. You didn't let it go, let it die, move on.
Right.
And along with that is that is the sad part, is a lot of these actors got trashed. I mean, Rose, dude, she got so wrecked by fans.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
And that's what makes me mad, is like, Dude, a lot of the time, it's not the actor's fault. It's just direction. Like, you are directed to do this. This is how I want you to say it. Say it. This is your writing. This is your character. Play it. Like, okay, that's not me out there. I'm not the one doing it. Which, dude, as we know, Star Wars fans are toxic. I mean, they came at Jar Jar Binks, dude. People were just like giving him death threats. He wanted to end his life. So sad. And it's like, it's not his fault. That's the direction he was given. That was the character he played. And it's like, you look at Hayden Christensen, and he's not amazing in Star Wars, but I've seen him in other things. Like, oh, he's actually a good actor. It's like, yeah, because he had to do that because that is what George Lucas wanted for that character. You know what I mean? It's like, geez, don't attack these people. They're just doing their job, dude. It's like, come on, chill out. And I don't know. That's one of the worst parts about Star Wars fandom is how toxic the fans are for anything. Yeah,
and that's why I say I don't want to bash on these movies too much because I don't want to add to that toxicity. Yeah. But again, we're attacking the movies, not the actors. But you would think, that's a great point. You would think that Star Wars fans would have learned by now because, like you said, Ahmed Best, the actor for Jar Jar Binks, attempted suicide. Really went through some stuff as a direct result of his role in Star Wars. He comes back to Star Wars this season of The Mandalorian. People love it. Yeah. Excuse me. Hayden Christensen, same thing. Almost ended his acting career because he just couldn't get a role. People hated him. Oh, well, I don't know if he couldn't get a role, but he couldn't get another role of that level again because the fandom just hated him. He comes back and people love it. It sucks for people like Jake Lloyd, I think is his name, the kid who plays Kid Anakin.
Yeah.
Guy got into drugs, totally ruined his life because of the trauma that he went through. And so it's sad to see it still happening with Kelly Marie Tran, I think her name is, who plays Rose.
Rose. Okay.
Yeah. And even with Daisy Ridley, when this new movie was announced that she's going to come back for, all the comments I saw were like, oh, why do we want this story again? Like, she's just going to F it up again. It's like, yeah, I don't want to see. Yeah, she's great. I don't necessarily think that's the best move for Disney to tell more of her story, but I'm excited to see how she does because hopefully they do her justice is all I'm concerned about. So I hope that movie does that for her and fans learn their lesson and don't, bully her out of everything.
Yeah, I agree. It's like, and that, like you said, we are attacking the directors and the writing. We're not attacking any of the actors.
Yeah.
You're told to do something, you do it. You know what I mean? It's your job. It's not your fault. Like, yeah, this character sucks, but this is who I'm playing. So, I'm going to play it the best I can. And I just think that's, it's so sad. And I hope Daisy Ridley does get some love when she comes back. And I agree with you that I don't think it's the best move. Like, you heard me a couple podcasts ago. I was like, great. Here we go,
Yeah.
Because I am wanting to break away from the Skywalker saga because it just ended whack. But nonetheless, I'm going to support it. I'm going to watch it. And maybe they do, save her character.
Yeah.
And the thing is with the sequels is that we love Star Wars, and my problem with it is that, man, these movies have ruined Star Wars from making another movie. Like, it's taken so long till now, or now we're going to do them again because they're like, dude, this did not go well, and The Mandalorian did so well that Disney thought, oh, series are where it's at, movies are dead. Let's move to this.
Yeah, and dude, arguably, The Rise of Skywalker, this could be studied in history books. The Rise of Skywalker, I don't want to overstate its role, but think about it. The Mandalorian premieres on Disney Plus, which in itself was pretty revolutionary. Disney Plus adding to another streaming service, which opened up the door for all of these other companies to make their own streaming service. That opens up the very first night Mandalorian drops. People love it. Go crazy. I think it was 2 months later because that must have been in October. And then Rise of Skywalker comes out in December. People hate Rise of Skywalker. So Disney sees, oh, our series is working. Our movies are not. And that's as simple as they see it. They don't care about the writing or who's in charge. They don't care about the showrunner. It's like, okay, this is working. This isn't. Let's stop doing this and keep doing this. So then you see a ripple effect. And I'm sure these shows were in production before the success of The Mandalorian, but it just greenlit every studio to do this same thing.
Right.
You see Marvel Studios start churning out trash movies around the same time and churning out a lot of series because, well, it worked on the Mandalorian model. It's got to work for all of us. And so now we're in this horrible time where either movies aren't being made or the movies that are being made are trash. And now even the series that are being made are trash along with the movies. So, yeah, The Rise of Skywalker had a huge impact on the world of streaming and filmmaking and TV series. So it's a real pain. It sucks.
It is. I don't know. It's like, it's even harder to swallow that pill when you're like, dude, typically the way the world works is as we progress with technology in time, we turn out better products. Like that's just the simple way it should be. That's how it usually goes, right? iPhone 4, boom, you got an iPhone 14. Total greatness, total change and everything, right?
Yeah.
But then we're with movies and special effects. There's times that you're just like, dude, what? Who said? Yeah, that was good. Keep it in. Like, ugh.
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah. So there's your reason for why the sequel movies are not great Star Wars movies. I guess they lost all the spirit of it for me.
Absolutely. They do lose a lot of like the little hypeness you felt like going to see The Force Awakens. It's like, yeah, dude, this is awesome. And then slowly with each movie, you're like, eh. Like, I bet you there's a lot of people who probably didn't even watch The Rise of Skywalker. They probably were just like, it's just is dying. It's whatever. And I mean, not to mention the whole Palpatine thing. Which we talk about on the podcast is that's the era we're in right now is them trying to fix what they did, and we've mentioned that you've mentioned, I guess I should say better, about how the line that's always quoted is somehow Palpatine returns. Everyone quotes it. It's quoted 9-day, right? Because it said, but shortly before or after. Oh, after is when the guy says, secrets of the Sith, dark magic, all things. Which is an important, like, that's a huge sentence that's just thrown away. But it's like explaining, like, well, no, he didn't just come back. We don't know how he came back, but we know there's something with the Sith and dark art that we don't understand, but that's how he came back. And that is where we are, right? With the Bad Batch, with the Mandalorian, we're getting kind of this whole connection to all that.
Yeah, and you make a great point, too. Palpatine getting into cloning and trying to achieve immortality has always been a thing. Always. We see in the Clone Wars, the TV series, the efforts he makes to clone himself, to develop cloning technology for whatever reason, and to achieve immortality. That's how he initially tempts Anakin over to the dark side. And so it totally makes sense to have Palpatine. Well, I don't want to say it makes sense to have him return, but it's not far-fetched to have, him be the puppeteer of all of it.
Right.
But it's just the way they executed it. I personally don't hate that somehow Palpatine returned, like you said. Somehow Palpatine returned, yeah. Sith magic, the dark arts, whatever. Dark science, whatever they say. And then we see that in the shows, and I really think that's great.
Yeah.
When you don't need a ton of exposition to explain something and it creates content for the future. I think that's great.
Right.
But it just, throughout the series, it wasn't executed well. They had 3 movies to allude to that. They had 3 movies to foreshadow or talk about it. It's not like it was some cool big reveal that caught us all by surprise and we should have been seeing the breadcrumbs the whole way. No, it was unplanned, last resort, last-ditch effort. So that's what's insulting about it.
In any of the other movies, it's just the last one. Boom. You're like, what?
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. If because that's the beauty of Star Wars is when something happens and then you start watching it and you're seeing like, oh, that's how they got to this point. Like, for example, we know Anakin turns right to the dark side, and then you watch the Clone Wars, and it's so fun to see those moments when Anakin does something a little, that's not the Jedi way. What are you doing? You just hear the faint, you're just in the background. You hear it. You're like, oh, and that's really fun to watch because you're like, oh, we're learning. We're getting to that point. Anakin didn't just crazily switch to the dark side. It was a process.
Yeah.
And it makes you happy to watch it. But now that's what they're doing right now is they're trying to build the, make the trail to make that reveal, which unfortunately people don't watch a lot of the series who are Star Wars fans. So if you watch the movies, you don't get it.
Right. And here's one thing. You make a point about the music. John Williams, who's done every score for every Star Wars movie in the Skywalker saga, he has an amazing way of foreshadowing or creating themes with his music. So there's the example of when Palpatine is elected Chancellor of the Republic and they're back on Naboo, there's this happy celebration song playing. And really what it is it's an alternate version of the Emperor's theme. So that's John Williams in his musical genius alluding to, and obviously at this point we know that Palpatine is going to be, Darth Sidious. But it's so cool that he does that. Could you imagine even like we would need something as small as the first time we see Snoke hearing a theme that alludes to the fact that it's related to Palpatine. None of that was there, No. So if anybody tells you that there was foreshadowing or that this was planned all along, and nobody will because it's pretty common knowledge that it wasn't. Just look for the little clues like that in Star Wars because it all ties in and it didn't. So,
could you imagine that would be awesome if they did something similar? Like maybe they do it in a different key that you can't really tell, but it's like alluding like he's a failed clone of Palpatine. It would be so awesome, and it's not there because they're bad movies, which is fine, and we move on and we live.
Yeah.
But I was going to ask you, is there any rumor of Tales of the Jedi part season 2 or anything? Has there been anything?
Yeah, it's confirmed. It's gonna happen.
Is it confirmed?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Let me see.
Because, dude, I would love to see, because I never knew that Darth Plagueis was alive during Phantom Menace. I never knew that till recently. And like that would be such a cool thing to watch Palpatine kill him,
Oh yeah, dude.
Time period. That would be like that'd be amazing. What a sick episode of Tales of the Jedi.
If we got anything, and that's the Palpatine content I want. Again, we want to steer clear from the Skywalker saga. But there are cool books about Palpatine's youth on Naboo and how he came into contact and was manipulated by Darth Plagueis and then went to work for him. If we saw something like that, that would be money. I did just look, and Tales of the Jedi is confirmed. Season 2 coming out next year. We'll see if that happens with the writer's strike.
That's true. But dude, that would be, oh man, I would love to see that. And because it is fascinating to see how these people who are, Sith, how they came to be that. I mean, like, that's literally what the Skywalker saga, it's a majority of that. How did Anakin get to that point? You watch it. And it's like, man, we love to see it. We love seeing Count Dooku. Like, that was amazing. Like, wow, we saw his arc. Oh, we get it, And
sorry, go ahead.
No, that's it. That's all I have.
One thing I'm a little worried about, and this isn't really a worry, but I don't know if we could get a story like that in Tales of the Jedi because Palpatine was never a Jedi. So I don't know how far-reaching Tales of the Jedi will be.
That's a good point.
Because if they just made it, Tales of the dude, if they made a series, I would watch every character in Star Wars. If they made a little 3-part, 20-minute episode each series like that for every, I'd watch it for Max Rebo.
Maxie.
Or Salacious B. Crumb. Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Like, how did they get there? We love that. Us as humans, we just like knowing that knowledge. Like, especially in Star Wars, we just love when all the dots connect. Like, dude, that's here. Oh, that's there. Oh, that's alluding to this. That's so awesome. We love that. So why wouldn't
Love
we
it.
love a Tales of the Sith? You know, that would be
Yeah, that would be amazing. Sorry if you heard my dog drinking. You'll have to. Hopefully that gets cut out in the background noise. But
I don't think I heard it. If
okay,
I did,
good.
I didn't hear it. Yeah, dude. But I mean, but maybe we're getting the Renaissance. Maybe we're getting the Great Awakening of Star Wars.
I hope so. Here's the thing. I'm excited for Ahsoka. It just doesn't look very good visually. You know,
Visually not good.
I was talking to a friend who won't be named, but it's not you, Spencer. we're talking about the trailer, and he was like, "Yeah, it looked bad," and I was like, "Yeah, it really does." And he's like, "Yeah, and it's all women too." And I was like, "Well, I don't really care about that. Like, it's Ahsoka." Yeah, well, he also hasn't seen Rebels, so it was like he doesn't understand all of these cool characters.
Has he even seen Clone Wars? I don't think he's even seen that.
No.
Yeah. so
You know what I'm talking about, of course. But I was like, well, that's not an issue for me. It just looks really bad.
Yeah.
And then that got us talking about, sorry, this is kind of a tangent, but like you said, as our technology progresses, it should get better. First season of The Mandalorian looked great in the volume. The new technology they were using, it was amazing. And now you can tell when it's in the volume just from the trailer. Like there are certain scenes in Ahsoka where we're like, yep, that's in the volume. It looks that bad. And it's like, how did this look great in 2019, but in 2023 it looks like trash? And you go back and watch the first season of The Mandalorian, it holds up. It still looks good. So it's not like we were just tricked into it. It still looks great. And something is missing there. So yeah, I don't know if we're in the golden age of Star Wars. I'm a little worried with this season of Mandalorian, and we'll see how Ahsoka shakes out, but it doesn't look great. So
no, it doesn't. That trailer, and we always talk about this. Typically, the trailer is you give them the cream of the crop. You give them the best scenes, the best cuts, and then you watch it and you're like, what's that?
Yeah.
You know, like what are we watching? What are we looking at? And I mean, it's already been mentioned that Dave Filoni isn't really much of a visual person.
Yeah.
Like, so cinematographer, that's a word. Maybe I'm gonna say it.
Yeah, it is. It is a word.
You don't see that, and it reminds me. Okay, so going back, what are your real quick total side note? What are your thoughts on The Secret Life of Walter Mitty? Do you like that movie?
I love Secret Life of Walter Mitty.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
And I was watching it the other night, and I was like, I didn't know it was PG. I was so surprised. I was like, it's PG, but dude, so much of the visuals, the cinematography. You're like, oh, this is so well made. Like I said, in my mind, I said it to Ellie. I was like, this might be the best PG movie ever made, purely off of cinematography. This is insane what they did with it. And I'm like, clearly our eyes like that. We appeal to it. People notice it when they watch the movie. So it's like, why are we not doing that? And then the prime example, Andor. Beautiful, so well made, so you're like because I went back and was watching some episodes, like, dude, night and day. Like, it is so pretty, everything. And it's like, let's get back to that. Let's hire people from there and bring them over and say, let's film on location. Let's do this, because maybe if your story sucks, if it's cinematography, like, man, this is amazing. The story wasn't amazing, but at least I enjoyed watching it.
Yeah. No, you're exactly right, and I like that you said film on location, because Secret Life of Walter Mitty, they filmed that junk in Greenland, dude. Like, that was on location, on a volcano, Yeah. That's why it looks so good. And I'm okay with special effects. I like a good Marvel movie that has way too many special effects, but on location always looks better. And like you said, Andor's prime example.
So maybe I know Andor was already. I think Ahsoka was already probably in the works when Andor was still in the works as well. So it's like they didn't need to learn from that. But I'm hoping from here on out, anything that's then put into production, maybe they pull from that and go, oh, people are really liking this, and this might be the reason why. So maybe hope, maybe not. Maybe we just say, oh no.
Yeah, we'll see. I do want to see who the cinematographer was on Andor. Jeez, I gotta find it. Anyway, you can keep talking. I'll look for this for a second.
But in the end, with the sequels, they happened, And as much crap as we want to talk on them, they are canon. I mean, I always attack the fact that they transfer the lightsaber behind the back. I always thought that was dumb. And I was like, I don't think that's canon. And it sounds like, but it is. I'm like, you're right. I guess in this moment, it's on screen. It is canon. I can't do anything about it. And so we have to take what we like and just move on and live as we live.
Yeah, that's how it be, I guess. I mean, like I said, don't want to rail on them, but they're not great movies, and everybody knows that. So
everybody knows.
I can't find who the cinematographer is for freaking Andor, but
who's the cinematographer from The Secret Life of Walter Mitty? Hire that guy too.
Oh, dude, I can find that super easily. Movies are different. You can find them a lot easier.
Yeah, that's true.
One cinematographer I really like is Roger Deakins. He's done every good-looking movie you've ever seen. And I was watching Rango the other day, that animated movie. Mm-hmm. I was like, dang, this looks good. Roger Deakins did the animated movie. Crazy.
Oh, really?
This guy was Stuart Dryburgh, who
Dryburgh
doesn't do a lot of great movies, but I'm sure they all look great. Oh, he did Once We Were Warriors, which is a New Zealand film starring Tamora Morrison, which is on my watch list. I want to watch that. So that'll give me more reason.
I don't know if he did, but it says Men in Black International. Never seen it.
Yes, he did do that. My friend Jared and I were talking about that last night. How that really hurt Chris Hemsworth's career, probably. Real quick, while we're on it, Roger Deakins did Blade Runner 2049, Prisoners, Shawshank Redemption, No Country for Old Men,
really?
1917, Rango, Sicario, Skyfall, How to Train Your Dragon.
What's the guy's name?
Roger Deakins.
Dude, what a G. Those are all amazing.
He's
movies.
A pretty well-established just legend. So, anyway.
Yeah, well, when you just I was just thinking about Prisoners the other day about how some of my favorite scenes in movies are outside and you can hear the wind. Mm-hmm. And that ending scene in Prisoners when he's standing out there and you can faintly hear it. I just love the outside and how it looks. So that makes sense, guys.
It's just real.
Yeah.
Yeah. Can't get that in the volume. Maybe you can, but they're not trying to. So.
Yeah. Well, that's all I have to say about that.
Okay, one last thing. This is just another film thing, not necessarily Star Wars. ILM helped and used the volume on The Batman, directed by Matt Reeves, 2022, starring Robert Pattinson.
The did?
Yeah. So one of those scenes is, and Matt Reeves is a big practical effects guy. He doesn't like special effects very much. But one of the scenes in that movie where they're standing on that unfinished building and there's a sunset in the background, it's a really beautiful shot. But that was shot in Disney's volume, which is really interesting.
Which is proves it can be done. It's just what are we doing good. Wrong? What are we not putting the effort into? Because like you said, The Mandalorian looked great for a season, so something's there.
Yeah, it's a shame. So
it's a shame.
Anyway, that's all I've got, Bubba.
That's all I got. Well, thank you
for being
a disciple of the Force.